Thank you so much for tuning in to She's All Over the Place with Katie. That's me.
And I'm your co-host for this episode, Alessandra Levy.
I'm so excited today. We have a very special guest who is near and dear to my heart. Her name is Emily Decker, and she is a personal trainer with a focus on intuitive movement and embodiment. So I'm so excited. Please welcome Emily Decker to the podcast.
Hi.
Hi, Emily.
I'm so happy to be here.
I'm so excited that you're here, and I'm so excited that you were like, yeah, let's do this. I think what you do is so important, and obviously we're going to dive into it, but I think it's something that more people probably need to know about, because it's not something that, day to day we're kind of experiencing on a mass level.
Yeah, totally. There's a big culture of disconnection in fitness and movement.
I agree. So since I know a lot about you, but maybe the listeners don't know who you are, I'd love for you to just, introduce yourself and give us a little background on you.
Yeah, I am, like you said, personal trainer, focus on intuitive movement, and call it embodied fitness. And I went to school to become a therapist. Actually, I got my master's degree in social work. And then I switched gears because I really wanted to be more active on my feet into fitness. I became a CrossFit coach. And then over the years, started realizing I did not want to be part of the diet culture name of the game.
Yeah.
Not that, all CrossFit gyms are like that. They're not all the same, but that I really wanted to help people find more consistency and fulfillment in movement. So I started studying to become a somatic experiencing practitioner. I have one more year of that training left, and have really focused on helping people reconnect with their bodies during movement, helping them find ways to move that feel aligned with their energy on any given day, so that it isn't, I have to do this, it's what would feel best. And yeah, so that's in a nutshell where things came from and what I do now.
That's amazing. And so I noticed you said the word somatic, and maybe some people don't know exactly what that means either. So you want to just expand a little bit on what somatic learning is, or somatic training that you've been doing?
Yeah, so somatic work is like body awareness, nervous system regulation work, and somatic experiencing is a modality specifically that's used with a lot of trauma practitioners to help people process negative experiences through completing cycles of nervous system actions like fight, flight, freeze, kind of resolving some of unresolved trauma and memory. But that has expanded now to also include people who are movement professionals, other people who work with clients during traumatic situations, to like really dig into how to stay regulated and find more connection with the body. So somatics is just like, it's a big umbrella term of body and nervous system awareness.
Okay, great. Yeah. And that's obviously very important. So I kind of want to bring it back to, you becoming a trainer. And so you kind of touched upon it a little bit, but I would just love to know, and I think the listeners would like to know, what sort of drew you to fitness? And maybe at the time it's different than it is now for you, but at the time, what did you feel like was drawing you to fitness? And obviously now into, like you said, more of somatic experiencing. So maybe just like giving a little overview of like how you got into fitness and then where you are today. Maybe give us a little bit of a journey of that. I think that'd be really interesting.
Yeah. So I went through a really hard time personally when I finished graduate school, and I got a social work research job, like working from home. And I was personally struggling with a lot of mind body disconnection. I have a disorder that's very rare. It's called depersonalization derealization syndrome, and it's like a chronic state of feeling disconnected from your body and your surroundings, or like you're like in a movie or in a dream. And I've had it for probably like 20 years, and it's significantly better today. But I didn't know at the time that when I graduated graduate school and this was all like really kicking up, I didn't know what it was. And I didn't realize how long I had it for on a more mild level. So all I kind of knew how to do as I was, trying to find a therapist who was well versed in that, and trying to kind of find what would like light me up on a day-to-day basis, was well, yeah, all I was trying to do was find what would light me up on a day-to-day basis. And
Right.
what I fell into was intense movement specifically,
Mm.
and like some more creative stuff that I was also working on at the time. And then eventually over time, I just kind of transitioned to focus on those things, and left my research job. Yeah, and I got really into intense, like high intensity, heavy lifting, trying to get a PR. I got very like strong and fast quickly, and I also tore my rotator cuff. And yeah, so
Mm.
I definitely like kind of drank the Kool-Aid of no pain, no gain, and it. I will never be a person who demonizes that people make that choice for themselves to do that. Let me be clear about that. Like, I'll demonize that messaging all day, but
Right.
when people choose that for themselves, I'll never demonize that, because for me personally, I think it almost kind of saved my life that I had that outlet for a while.
Yeah.
And then as like I was figuring out how to come more back to my body in a more manageable way, that started seeming not just less necessary, but I was seeing how it was contributing to this like unprocessed disordered eating I'd had for a long time, and also contributing to the disconnection with my body and how much I was ignoring my body signals
Mm.
to go through that. So, when you have those kind of realizations and you're also working in that field, it's kind of impossible to be like, okay, I'm going to change everything I'm doing for myself, but I'm going to keep doing the same thing for everyone else. Like, I realized that I did not want to be causing the same problems for other people that this was also contributing to for me. So the deeper I got into somatic and embodiment work, the more I realized that there was an entirely different way to approach working out and movement. I also then, at the beginning of the pandemic, I was very sick for a while. Don't know if it was COVID. I didn't qualify for a test. This was back when you had to qualify for tests. And I didn't get an antibody test until I was out of the window of when it would have been reflective. So I don't know what it was, but like mono or just like really intense like stress. And eventually, a long time later, I was diagnosed with fibromyalgia. But at the time, it was like I would do an intense workout and then I'd just be in bed for like feeling like I had like the flu and exhausted for a couple days, and then I'd feel better and I'd do another one, and it was just kind of this cycle. So finally I rested, and I had to reimagine, completely my relationship with specifically running was something that has been in my life my whole life. And I said, you know what, I have to put the trackers away. I have to turn the music off. And this needs to, if I want to ever jog again, I have to be really specific with what my body's telling me at any given time. And so it started to become more meditative. And I'm actually like really grateful for, not that, I don't know if I want to say I'm really grateful for that time of like sickness and stress. I'm definitely not grateful for the pandemic, but I am grateful for the lessons that it taught me in being more present and having just a new catalyst to continue to approach fitness in a different way and practice that on a daily basis.
Yeah. And I mean, that's, it's a lot to sit with. I know. And as someone who also has an autoimmune disease and who's had mono that turned into Epstein-Barr virus and has, been in bed and had lots of fatigue. And I understand it's like, you don't want to say like, yeah, I'm thankful for this. But like you said, sort of realizing what are the lessons. And I mean, the fact that it has been transformative for your life, but then also to turn around and actually implement it into your business and implement it into what you're providing for people. I mean, that's really special and really amazing because again, there are really not many personal trainers that are doing this. I mean, I'll give a little background just of how, how we come to know each other for the listeners out there. I was looking for a trainer who was going to focus on not taking before and after photos and not weighing in and not telling me what to eat and what not to eat. And I was really looking for a trainer who was just going to like help me to, want to do things differently and be like, still be strong and have little, like, I don't want to say goals, but just have intentions of what I wanted to do for my body, but not having it to do with anything like I've had trainers before where it's like very goal oriented and very like check-ins and weigh-ins and just really harsh. And like you said, not listening to your own body, which I think is so prevalent. I mean, it's pretty much almost all that's prevalent in sort of fitness and in the fitness industry, wouldn't you say? I mean,
yeah, it's a huge problem. And also I do think there are coming to be more people on a kinder and less toxic, body obsessed side of it. You know, there are starting to be a lot more non-diet, anti-diet types of trainers, and people who will be more flexible. And I do think that's important because that really shapes our relationship with movement. When we kind of think about our first experiences with movement, a lot of people think about like PE and having to run the mile, or that whole like exercise feeling like confining and punishing can start pretty early. And exercise for, you have to be thin, you have to have a certain body type, or for men, like you have to be muscular. It's the pressure and the thinking about the body rather than experiencing the body, like that all starts very, very early. And so I am glad that there's starting to be more messaging that's running counter to that over the course of life, if we're wanting to have a sustained relationship with movement until we're 80, 90, 100, or however we're lucky to live. We don't want to be going into these, like, I have to force my body into doing this and then burning out, like these cycles over and over again, which aren't great for our health, to be honest.
yeah. And so I kind of want to, you started to touch on this, but I think I would love to go a little bit deeper on this. I would love to know, I mean, obviously I think listeners are starting to understand why it's important to be in your body when you're moving, right? But I guess from your perspective, I'd love to know, why is it so important that when we are moving, or we decide we want to move in all the different ways we can and we want to, why is it so important for us to start to shift our mindset with that?
Great question. So the first thing I would say is that it isn't, you don't have to. I will say that as the first thing, because I do know plenty of people who are able to, in their perspective, like maintain their workout routine. And I have heard people say, I like to work out because I don't want to have to think. I come here and I don't want to have to think. I want to be told what to do. And if that's you, that's fine. And if that, if there isn't a problem there, that's fine. What I think happens for more people, and why there's such a problem of weight cycling in our culture, of dramatically losing weight and then gaining back, which we know is more dangerous than never having dieted in the first place or gone into an extreme exercise program. One reason I think that that's so common is because we have been completely trained out of checking in with our body. We've been so trained out of saying, this is too much for me and I need to dial it back. I need to rest. I need to slow down. It's very much like, don't slow down, keep it up, keep pushing through. And again, some people find that really empowering. And for some people, maybe some days that's really empowering. But if it is, for what I see for a lot of people, and totally is a natural response, is that makes us feel trapped if we're going to start moving. Well, a lot of people start feeling like kind of paralyzed to even begin, or think like, I don't have an intuition for movement, that I don't have that. I just want to sit on the couch. Like I don't have that, or it sounds awful. Why would I want to do that? A lot of times there is, dig a little bit deeper, something that kind of comes up is the idea that if I start, I have to do X amount. And then if I want to get X results, I have to do X amount for X days. And then it just starts feeling so overwhelming. And this thought process that runs through all those steps can happen so fast, like that whole cycle. And it has a somatic effect of that, like almost like a freeze response of, this is a threat. And so why would I start and put myself in that situation? And so what I would say is the importance and the value of checking in with our body before, during, after movement is that when that becomes the priority, we can be much more flexible and adaptable. And it's no longer like, oh, 5 minutes of stretching or mobility doesn't count. It's like, of course it counts when that's what the body is asking for in this moment. And if it's 5 minutes today and I get in this pattern of listening to what my body's asking for, then over time, I'm going to start hearing when it's saying, I want to go for a walk. Now I'm on a walk, like maybe I want to jog to that tree, and like, no, that felt good, or, oh, that felt like a little too much. And we kind of start finding our comfort zones, and some of our body sensations start making more sense. Again, it's not like you have to do it this way. It's the only way I want to do it. And it's what I have, found to be like so sustainable over time, and encourage so much peace, because there's so much less judgment and pressure. And it's about that fulfillment and enjoyment. And again, it doesn't mean that you can't have goals or strength and endurance goals. Like, you absolutely can, but there's a kind of a spectrum of how you'll go about meeting those, and there's flexibility around what that will look like on any given day.
Yeah, wow. That's a lot of amazing information. And I feel like, I know for me, I mean, I'm sort of practicing this with you, and sort of on my own. I've worked with some somatic teachers and sort of trying to understand like what these impulses look and feel like. I mean, I know what you mean, being a part of not much influence, but also impacted by diet culture. And, just remembering, like, even for me, when I started to recover from eating, eating disordered and disordered eating, one of the main things was like, am I actually hungry? Because I think for a while I was like, maybe I'm just thirsty, because that's what we're taught in diet culture. Oh, you're not hungry. You probably just need to drink more water. And so you're right. We just have become so disconnected over time with our own bodies that we even question whether or not we're hungry or not. And, it's just like that. That's just what it brought up for me, of just like, yeah, you're right. Just over time, if we're not checking in, like you said, even before, during, after, at any point when you're moving or really eating or doing anything else, where at maybe one point we were just so disconnected with ourselves. I think that's really important and really amazing. I guess my next question would be for the listener out there, if they're like, wow, this sounds really awesome. Like, I would have never thought about this. Or it sounds something like, I feel like I want to do that because maybe I didn't have a good relationship with exercise. Maybe they heard you talk about PE and they were like, oh my God, I tried to do a pull-up and I couldn't do it. And then I felt terrible for the rest of my life, so it could be hitting someone like, wow, that's right. I hate running because I used to be forced to run the mile in under 13 minutes or whatever it is. Right. So if the listener is out there going, this sounds like something I maybe need in my life, what would you say would be some like first, very gentle steps of just realization or just self-awareness? Like, where would someone even begin?
Yeah. The first thing that I would say is consider scheduling the time, not the activity. So it can be easier, like looking at a schedule for this like crazy work obsessed culture we have, where everyone is very, very busy. It can be easier to schedule the time in it that you'll have free in the rest of the week without scheduling or without having to know exactly how you're going to feel in that moment. Because I think a lot of times people kind of schedule workouts and then it comes and you're like, I'm exhausted, So kind of schedule the chunk, whether it's like 20 minutes, 30 minutes, tentative plans to do. Maybe I'll do this class or this class on YouTube, depending on how I'm feeling. And then when it comes, like, take some time to take some breaths, notice your energy level, ask yourself what would feel best right now, and try and lean into that. And one way that I like to do that too, and one practice that I find really valuable, is if you're one of the many people who just kind of constantly feels exhausted. Well, first of all, sleep more if possible. But sometimes it's not, but not
with
feeling
the
rested.
basics.
Yeah, but not feeling rested is and being kind of like overworked is a huge epidemic in our society that contributes to reasons like why when you have a stressful job, even if you're sitting down all day, you're going to be emotionally exhausted by the end of the day. So what I suggest kind of in those circumstances is have that time scheduled where you can just get a yoga mat out, lie down, ask what is the smallest movement that would feel good or okay right now. And like maybe it's like some wrist circles or some glute bridges, or just like go trying to like activate the core by doing a couple of like kind of crunches and just noticing the muscles start activating. And then see like, do I have areas of tension? Is there an area that I want to mobilize because it feels a little tight from today? And then as you're kind of opening those joints, doing some arm circles or pec stretches in the doorway and doing some leg swings and whatever is kind of like it's flowing into, continuing to notice how the energy is shifting or staying the same and what might be being asked for next. And that's kind of how I run my initially work with like my brand new clients is that kind of just like tracking and checking in and noticing, just to kind of practice that body attunement.
Mhm.
What I've noticed for a lot of people, and this is not the goal, this is just something that has happened for a lot of people. In doing that, energy starts to build, but again, without the pressure that it has to. So it potentially could build to a point where it's like, I'm going to do a couple of sets of squats and some bicep curls, or yeah, maybe that like 10-minute yoga video would feel good now with the understanding I don't have to finish it. And then maybe it continues to build past that, or maybe less than that. Just kind of start navigating and practicing to learn something new, to have a new experience.
I think that's the perfect way to think about it. And I don't, maybe not perfect's not the right word, but but I think that's an amazing way to think about it, because like you were mentioning before, our culture is so like 0 to 100. And
Mhm.
this practice is not that. This
Mhm.
practice isn't like, oh, I feel like moving. Let me go run 5 miles immediately. It's like, no,
Mhm.
you're saying, hey, start just by like moving your shoulders or moving your arms. Maybe all of a sudden you're like, actually, I didn't stretch this morning. I'm gonna like
Mhm.
stretch out. I'm gonna put my hands over my head and stretch. And then, it might turn
Mhm.
into like, maybe you're just kind of like rolling around on the ground and you're like dancing almost. I mean, it could like turn into anything, right? It could be,
Mhm.
turn into stretching or yoga, or all of a sudden you might like want to jump up and down. Or so I think the idea is for someone that, I mean, and correct me if I'm wrong, but that it's just the initial just checking in and seeing what feels good, and then kind of doing it, and then seeing as like how it progresses and what it turns into next. So it's like body led, like you're letting your body and your
Mhm.
mind kind of talk to each other and your emotions and see like what you want to do.
Yeah, absolutely. Because the overarching goal there is to transform that relationship with movement, to have that new experience. And a lot of like things that can push back on that are the like, is this enough? Does this count? And I just want to address that because I'm sure somebody's thinking that. uh,
Yeah.
Once that getting back into the body and noticing what feels good and what doesn't, and what you are moving towards on at any given time, once that starts becoming more natural, bringing back in structure, or potentially like if you do have a goal or something like that, bringing that back in will look very different. Like it can still happen. It can still be okay. Like I've been practicing this for a while now, and I do really want to work on getting less winded when I'm going up the stairs. And so, there are ways to then, have some ideas of movements where, again, we can check in to see, does this feel aligned with where I am? Maybe it's a little bit of a stretch. Maybe I need to ease into it
Mhm.
to see if it's a yes today, but not having so much pressure that, yeah, going from 0 to 100 and like we need to get it done. We need to check it off the list, and just being more flexible with it.
I feel like this is, obviously it's like it's so much information, but I also feel like we were able to distill it down for people to just really understand that this is something that is gentle, and you go slow, and you don't have to be, you don't have to get it right immediately. This is like a
Mhm.
learning process, and this is like a rediscovering, like you're saying, we're rediscovering how to be with our body, how to be with our mind, how to check in, how to feel what feels good, what doesn't feel good, what serves us, what doesn't. If we're doing an exercise and we're like, I don't want do it anymore. You stop. It's okay. There's not someone in the back of your head, like a coach going, you're not giving up, like there's not this, there's gentleness, there's understanding, there's a big learning curve, right? This is like something that people are starting to explore or maybe want to start exploring. So I think that's just a really great message that you're putting forth of just learning how to lean in and listen to your body and just reconnect. I mean, that's really, right? That's like the number one, just to actually, probably after a lot of us have gone through a lot of stress and trauma with movement, if we've been on a sports team or had a coach or whatever, or another personal trainer that maybe wasn't as gentle or understanding. I mean, so I think that's really great to just kind of peel back all the layers, start simply just with yourself, just checking in. I think that's really such a great way to just get started. And I think for the listener out there, they're going to be able to listen to this and go, you know what, this is something that I can do, because everyone can do it. It doesn't involve, okay, you got to go out and get weights and you got to go out and get bands and a workout system. And no, it's like you just starting with yourself and your body. And I think that is how it's going to get to the masses, and more people are going to leave diet culture and be like, oh yeah, that was kind of messed up. I want to go back to the basics and just learn how to listen to my body. So this has just been so amazing. And I'm really excited for people to hear this, because I think that, I mean, I know I can say for me, it's changed my life. It's changed my outlook. Obviously, it's changed your life and your outlook, because not only have you changed it for yourself, but you've incorporated it in your working with your clients. And so I think it's just truly amazing what you're doing. And I would love to just, before we start to say like, oh, where can we find you and all that, is there just anything else you'd like to mention, or any like little, nugget of wisdom you'd like to give?
Yeah. The one thing that I will add is that for a lot of people, checking in with the body can be frustrating or at the very beginning, or it can be scary and overwhelming depending on what we've been ignoring for a really long time. It can be a little bit confusing. So if this is something that like you're interested in kind of starting and leaning into, it can be helpful to have some support around that, whether that's a trauma-informed trainer, or somatic trainer, or a somatic therapist, or someone who can kind of support that as you start that process. Because for some people, it definitely can be intense, and that doesn't mean that it's wrong. What that means is that we need to create more spaces of safety for the body to feel safe to allow for the awareness of it.
Great reminder. Just in anything, but especially for this, it's a great reminder that there are resources. You can ask for help. You can look for support. That is why we're here. We're not meant to do everything alone. We're meant to have community. We're meant to have people to help us through things. So that's wonderful. So thank you so much. I just want you to be able to share where people can find you. I mean, I know for me, besides working with you personally, I think also I love seeing what you post on your Instagram. So I think it'd be great for you to let people know where they can find you, so that they can see, the great videos that you make that have really wonderful suggestions and tips.
Yeah. So my Instagram is at Emily Decker Fitness. And then my website is www.emilydeckerfitness.com. And that kind of talks more about what working with me looks like. I'm running a group right now that's going to wrap in about a week and a half. And I'll probably be running that group next year as well. It's called the Embodied Fitness Group. Or you can email me at emilydeckerfitness@gmail.com.
Amazing. You make it very easy for people to find you. So wonderful. Well, that'll also be in the show notes. And I just wanted to thank you again from the bottom of my heart for coming on here and talking to people and sort of spreading this amazing, the amazing gospel. No, just, I really appreciate that you're spreading this wonderful information and the practice of intuitive movement and embodiment, which I think is, we're talking about, just so key and really a great way to check back in and get connected or reconnected to your body. So I just want to thank you so much for being a part of this. And thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
Be sure to share with a friend, follow and subscribe.
Thank you so much for joining us. We'll see you next time. Katie, over and out.